The Suruthi are a chaos-corrupted Xenos race from the first Eisenhorn novel, and having recently reread and loved these books again, I thought it'd be fun to do a video on them. So, let's begin. Two people discuss them. They had an empire, you know. The history is here, inscribed pictographically. Our tastes do not read it though. The Suruthi have no optical or auditory functions. Smell and taste, the two combined in fact, are their primary senses. They can detect the flavours of reality, even those of dimensional space, the angles of time. How? He shrugged. The Necrotic, a chaos-corrupted book. It warped them. Their empire was small, no more than 40 worlds, and very old by the time the book came into their possession, carried by humans fleeing persecution on Terra in their very earliest days, thanks to their taste-based sensory apparatus. They derived from the Necrotic more than a simple human eye could read. From that first taste, the profound law of the book passed through their culture like wildfire, a pathogen transforming and twisting, investing them with great power. It led to war, civil war, which collapsed their empire, leaving worlds burned out or abandoned, contracting their territory to the far-flung fragments we know today. They are corrupted as a species, asked Vogue. Malahite nodded. Oh, there's no saving them, Inquisitor. They are precisely the sort of Xenos filth your people teach us to fear and despise. I've encountered several alien races in my career, and found most to be utterly undeserving of the hatred that the Inquisition and the Church reserves for anything that is not human. You are blinkered fools. You would kill everything because it is not like you. And in this case, you are right. The contagion of the book has overwhelmed the Suruthi. Never mind that they are Xenos. They are a chaos breed. They abandoned their spaceship technology centuries ago. They had no further need for it. As I said, the chaos book had warped their sensory abilities. They became able to undo the angles of space and time, to move through dimensions from world to world. They mastered the art of constructing spaces in 4 dimensions, environments that existed only at specific time points, like the one where the trade was meant to take place. Yes, KCX 1288 was once part of their empire, ravaged in their civil war. They chose it for the meeting because it was remote from their main population centres. They built the tetrascape inside specifically for us. Tetrascape, forgive me, I coined the term. I thought I might use it in a paper one day. A tailored 4-dimensional environment. In that particular case, engineered with a human climate. We were their guests, you see. What would this tetrascape have looked like? It said we were advancing up a cluster of hills, dark and uninviting, with a glowing sky above. There were many rows of arches, some overlapping. We became disorientated. It seemed on occasion that as we passed through one arch, we came through out another in a different row. The tracks never wavered or broke, but we seemed to blink between one aisle of hoops and another, and the angles of the joints in the arches were, as Jerris had said, geometrically incorrect. I think, Emma said quietly to me as we walked onwards, the lack of symmetry is in every particular and every dimension, meaning the 3 we can see and the 4th, time. Dimensions have been stretched and warped, perhaps accidentally, perhaps to torment us, perhaps for some other purpose, but I think that is why things are so twisted and wrong. And what do these chaos-corrupted beasts look like? Let's go into that now. And I saw the Suruthi for the first time. There were 9 of them, as far as I could tell. They had me think of arachnids or crustaceans, but neither comparison was entirely accurate. From their flat grey bodies extended 5 supporting limbs, jointed in such a way so that the main mid-limb was raised higher than the horizontal torso. There was no symmetry to the arrangement of limbs, or to the way in which they moved. Their scuttling pace was irregular, and without repetition of order. It was disturbing merely to watch them walk. Each limb ended in a caliper of polished silver, a metal stilt, clasped in the digits of each limb, lifting them a further metre or so off the ground. The metal spikes of the stilts made a clacking, tapping sound on the hard tiles that I could hear despite the distance. Their heads were oblate shapes, rising on thick, boneless columns from the tops of their bodies. They had long skulls and lacked obvious mouths or eyes, though several flaring, nostril-like openings showed on their snouts. There was no symmetry to the arrangement of these openings either, nor to the shape of the skulls, and their necks sprouted off-centre from their backs. They were loathsome, filthy things. Each creature was twice as mass of a man, with gleaming grey flesh, and there seems to be second-tier versions of them as well, perhaps slaves. More creatures emerged, more Saruthi, identical to those who had already appeared, flanking other things. There seemed to be 4 of them, with body structures similar to the aliens, but they were bloated and misshapen. Their ghost flesh was white and sickly, and blotched with marks that seemed like disease. Each of their stilts, their limbs, were fitted with heavy metal hooves, linked all around by wires that acted like shackles. These pallid, wretched things, slaves of the Suruthi, I had no doubt, moaned as they moved, filling the air with a sickly whining. The waiting Suruthi jabbed at them with the points of their stilts as they clattered past onto the plateau. Between them, on their backs, the 4 slave things carried a trapezoidal casket of black metal, covered with irregular, spaced wart-like protuberances. A deal is made between the House of Claw and the Xenos to get the necrotic. How was the deal arranged? Locke, the rogue trader, asked. He was on a retainer to the House of Claw, had been for centuries, a mercenary roaming the stars at the behest of the Claws. He ventured into the Suruthi territory and eventually made contact. Then he discovered the existence of the Chaos book and knew what it would be worth to his masters, and they agreed to trade. I was becoming impatient. Time surely was running out. He shuddered again. It's cold, he says, isn't it? Getting colder. They agreed to trade. Come on, Malahite. We can't help you if you delay. Yes, they agreed. In exchange for the return of the artifacts and treasures from worlds they had abandoned and no longer had access to. Wasn't the case book precious to them? It was in their souls, in their minds, woven into their genetic code. By then, the book itself was incidental, and the final fate of the book is when an inquisitorial force searched for the Suruthi version of it. Their copy was found and destroyed, and the planet was subject to exterminatus. No contact since then has been made by this Xenos chaos-touched race. So yes, the Eisenhorn trilogy is worth a read, especially if you can pick it up in an omnibus with the short stories. The follow-up, Ravenor, I'm making my way through. Again, it's okay, but it doesn't have that same something to it that Eisenhorn has. And then we get to the last part of the trilogy. The first 2 only are out, the first 2 Beckwin books, and they're really good as well. Maybe the best Abnett's writing has felt like for me personally. It seems to have matured since the first book. Anyway, drop me a comment down below, let me know what you think of the lore, and if you like this video on 40k, then why not try this one?